the global Hindu rights activist and first Hindu woman to be elected as president-elect of Oxford University Students' Union.
Moving abroad somewhere, living independently in a place that's completely unknown to you, making a life for your own, I think it teaches you a lot about yourself, the world around you.
She is also the former staff of British Parliament.
There have been many incidents. It just doesn't turn up on the news as much because there's definitely a sort of a bias when it comes to what news gets platforming and what doesn't.
NewsX proudly presents the VaKu Diaspora dialogue with Rashmi Samant.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX VaKu. My name is Megha and joining me on the broadcast is Rashmi Samant. She's a graduate and former president of the University of Oxford. She's also a former staffer of the British Parliament. It's great to have you, Rashmi, on the broadcast with us.
Thank you so much, Megha, for the very kind introduction and inviting me to be on air with you.
My first question that I've asked every single individual who is come on this diaspora broadcasting network, VaKu, is the motivation for you to have decided to let go of your roots in India and travel all the way to United Kingdom. Was it because of further education, and how has your experience been so far?
So I think for me it was pursuing further education to get my master's. So that was a part of it. I've done most of my education from India. I got most of my degrees here. I've been to school all my life here. But I think, moving abroad somewhere, living independently in a place that's completely unknown to you, making a life for your own, I think it teaches you a lot about yourself, the world around you. So it gives you a lot of exposure, makes you very independent. So I think that experience is what I was in search for. And I'm someone who doesn't let go of too many of her roots. So I had my little mandir in my room. I used to always cook Indian food for lunch, for dinner, and breakfast all the time. So I guess some roots just they stay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was more of it.
And
that
the
was
fact that
my
there are so many Indians living in United Kingdom, so you're never feeling out of place, are you?
Definitely. Indian diaspora is one of the biggest in the UK, and they're one of the most successful people, in fact, in the United Kingdom. So, you see Indians doing so well in that country that, and also Indians are everywhere. So much so that even the supermarkets, they carry a separate section where you find all the spices. You don't have to specifically look for a specialized Indian market, but you can actually go walk into any store and find something basic.
Okay, all right. So there you were in the news in the last couple of years. There were some bitter experiences that you had gone through. If you could shed light to that, and has those experiences, the stray ones that have happened, wherein you decided to let go of your presidentship as in the University of Oxford, what led to that, and what has been the aftermath of it?
So I think bitter experiences is something which is a part of diaspora life, and people experience it in different ways. Some more intensive than others because definitely there's a difference of culture, and there's also definitely the problem of racism. It's something that exists. It's a reality that we do deal with on a daily basis. Some of them have more bitter experiences than others, I must say. And I've had a tough time. I've had some tough times of my own, and this experience, I think, kind of opened my eyes to also the other people who went through similar things, because there's some sort of bonding that happens when you go through something. Shared experiences, they bring people together. So I've heard stories of others which probably wasn't on the news so much, but it's happened. But I think for me personally, not speaking from any other person's perspective, it's been more like baptism by fire. It's really molded me to be tough, to take on situations, more intensive situations, to challenge the norms, to change people's perceptions about certain cultures, religions, way of life, and everything. So it's given me that opportunity to discover that not everything is very well accepted, but these are the things that you can do, and how you can emotionally also manage yourself when you're being sort of in that space and in that sort of negative spotlight. So for me, it's been more of a learning curve. And yeah, but I think different people have different experiences. So that's one of the harder truths that you have to, that we do, Indians do, experience when they move abroad.
So the kind of experiences that you've had in terms of discrimination against you being an Indian American or a Hindu American, so would you call these instances that are taking place, or beg your pardon, British, Hindu British, since you are from, you've lived in United Kingdom for a certain amount of time, would you call these instances stray, or they are much more frequent in number?
I don't think these are stray, to be very honest. There have been many incidents. It just doesn't turn up on the news as much because there's definitely a sort of a bias when it comes to what news gets platforming and what doesn't. So there have been many incidents. Very recently, a Hindu Indian lady owner of a petrol pump station was brutally attacked by a British man, physically assaulted so much that her head, it was bleeding from one point. There are videos of this, but it's not managed to, it's gained very minimum coverage, and people don't know about it. That's the thing. It happens, and it's a thing every Saturday or Sunday. If you're walking by a street which has many pubs, and there are drunk people, then 5 out of 10 times there's a chance that someone's going to shout at you, call you, there are these weird slangs which I don't want to repeat on television, that they use for people with an Indian skin tone and facial features. So they throw that at you. So these things happen. They're very sublime. Some things are very sublime, not as much as a physical assault that happened at a petrol pump station very recently during the fuel crisis. But the sublime things, they exist, and it comes out more and more on weekends when people are drunk, and they try to it comes out more. But there are other serious issues too, which unfortunately doesn't come up on the news so much. So when one or two of them do come up on the news due to certain reasons, it looks like an isolated event, whereas it's not. It's something that the Indian diaspora has been silently enduring for a very long time now. I think it's this thing about Indians, every time we are wronged, we are discriminated, we just put our head down, we work harder, we do better. We don't complain about it, we don't crib about it. I think it's just our nature that, that we have. So, yeah.
Okay, so recently there has been a lot of noise that has been created and negativity that has been attracted to Hinduism per se. So is this a phenomenon that is being witnessed around the world, including in United Kingdom and America and several other western parts of the world, very, very recently? Or hasn't been a phenomena that's been old and just being revived? And why could be the cause for this misinformation, disinformation that is being, dispersed, dissipated across the globe?
I think Hinduism is one of the most, or the Sanatan Dharma is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the West, and they haven't looked beyond the sort of the outer perspective of Hinduism. That's a woman wearing a bindi or a sari. They haven't looked beyond it. They haven't looked into our philosophy. They haven't looked into the pluralism that we propagate through the religion, the freedom that we have within Sanatan Dharma to be who we are, to choose what we want. So I think when they look at from the Western perspective, from an Abrahamic perspective, they just look at the outer perspective of things. Oh, they wear bindis, so dot heads and this and that. So that's always been there. I think the West has never really understood what Hinduism about, and it doesn't want to do so. Rather, it just is in this vicious cycle of ridiculing people who follow that and our customs, just based on half-baked information that they have out of their own, they're ill-informed about this.
Right.
But I think this has been there for a long time. It's, if you look at academic work for the past few years, say going back a few decades, you can see it. But I think you really didn't see it in mainstream Indian society because there was no way this was getting communicated all the way here. People, the globe wasn't as connected as we are now. I mean, I think it's only 10, 15 years ago that we became so connected. Social media has definitely helped in bringing these issues more to the forefront, so that we really know what's going on. I think, with time, I think now we know more about it, but the problem's always been there.
Do you think there is at this point of time need for more organizations, communities of the Indian diaspora, Hindu diaspora, to raise their voice, to fight against these injustices, these discriminations, and more so dismantling this Hindu hate by propagating and making people, making the world more aware about what Hinduism is all about, or what Indianness is all about?
Right. I think Kali Yuga is all about, in Kali Yuga, you survive only if you have Sanghatan, that is, strength of community, strength of people coming together. I think that is very much important. As a society, we are beautiful, we are wonderful. We need to tell the world about the beauty of the Dharma, about our concepts, about our philosophy, so that we are misunderstood less. Because there are, good people in the world. There are more good people than bad. It's just that people are ill-informed. So we need to take control of the narrative, show our religion for what it truly is, and make sure that the society is more peaceful for our own people and for others, and there's a better understanding of our culture, so that the integration is much nicer and there's more harmony. So I think that's very important, and for that to happen, I think it's wonderful if the community comes together. The community came together for me, and we did wonderfully when the community came together for me. It was great. We all came together. We were able to sort through everything, and I don't think it's going to happen again to any Hindu student at Oxford. So we were able to establish that.
Absolutely. Okay, it's been lovely talking to you, Rashmi, and thanks for sharing about your life, your experiences in the United Kingdom, and welcome back home. It's great to have you back, and here's to all the bigger accomplishments that you're going to achieve in the coming years.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
She is the Vice President of Savvy Money with an experience of over 12 years in the consumer finance industry.
I am living the life that I wanted. I am very happy where I am.
Bringing a broad skill set in customer insight, analytics, and product management.
People of Indian origin now showing up and making their voices heard.
NewsX proudly presents the VaKu Diaspora Dialogue with Bhavna Guglani.
Well, hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX VaKu. My name is Megha, and joining me on the broadcast is Bhavna Guglani from United States of America. Now, she's a Senior Vice President, Product Management at Savvy Money, which is a consumer credit score solutions company based out of California. It's good to have you, Bhavna, on the broadcast with us.
Thank you, Megha. It's my pleasure.
My first question to you, as I ask all my guests who are on this Diaspora Broadcasting Network, is what brought you to America? How has your journey been? How long have you stayed in America now? And have you fulfilled your American dream?
That's a lot of questions. So let me break it down and go back memory lane. I moved, my path to the US was not straight, which means that I came to the US via London, spent a little bit of time in France and Singapore, and then came to the US. Am I fulfilling my American dream? I think I am. I am living the life that I wanted. I am very happy where I am. Had I not been happy in India, I think I would have. But yes, it's been a journey that I'm happy with. I moved to the US in 2005 after I graduated from INSEAD, which is a business school located in France and Singapore. I graduated in 2005, moved to the US. I worked with HSBC for about 3 years, a pretty popular bank in India, and then moved to a company called Savvy Money. I joined this really tiny startup in the Bay Area. I was employee number 4, and I'm still there. Very proud to say it is not a startup anymore. We're a profitable company. We've made it grow from 0 to about a $200 million valuation in about 10 years.
That's brilliant. That's commendable. And in fact, that was my question. The fact that, you starting off your journey in this insipid startup, and you've taken it great guns strides ahead. How have you climbed the ladder of success?
It's not a linear journey ever.
Of course.
The startup itself had at least 2 deaths and 3 infusions that made a big difference. We saw our best growth during COVID, which is commendable, as well as ironic, considering that we help people with their credit scores, which is very unique in the US, not very commonly used across the world, where we were thinking that our business might get impacted because of COVID, because people were losing jobs. However, we saw that digitization of lending became very popular in the US. So therefore, we saw our revenues grow double every year for the last about 2 years, putting us on a very successful path at the moment.
That's brilliant. And being a woman, was it relatively more difficult to climb the ladder of success and be at the position you are senior management, number 4 in your company at this point of time? And also, I'm very curious to understand, had this journey been taken in India, would it have been doubly or triply more hard?
Most of the time you're doing your job. You're doing what needs to be done at the moment, as well as you're taking charge of the strategy of the company. However, it's interesting that I have sat back sometimes and found that I'm the only woman in the room. It's not just white males, it's just the fact that many times I've been the only woman in the room. And every time I have thought about it and said, I hope I'm being a good role model for the others who want to follow that path. I'm hoping that I am giving a way of how people can do their jobs, whether it's in my own company or even otherwise in the various networks that I'm part of.
Okay, interesting to know that. In fact, because over here as well, when you're working in an environment that is filled with men, it kind of becomes difficult to ascertain your power and your authority. And that's something, obviously, women are shattering the glass ceiling as we grow along and step along the way. But, okay, all right. So since you've spoken about being a woman, being an Indian woman in America and succeeding all the way through the top, how has your experience been as part of the Indian diaspora community in America? The Indian community per se is very successful. They form a large number of people, large number of community in America, and they are being seen not just in the business platforms, not just in the big tech companies. They have become the faces of companies. They've become faces of the current political organization as well. I'm talking about Kamala Harris, or we talk about Pramila Jayapal, talk about Ro Khanna. They're all part of the Congressional Congress, and that makes Indians proud across the world. How has your experience per se been being an Indian diaspora, part of the Indian diaspora community in America?
Absolutely. I used to live in the Bay Area about till 10 years ago. And we saw the power that you're seeing or you're talking about in the media now, 10 years ago. We were seeing the influence at the local level. You were seeing people being elected. Ro Khanna was popular 5-7 years ago in the Bay Area before he became popular for everybody else. I moved to Austin, Texas about 10 years ago. I live in Austin. And I remember distinctly feeling that, you feel like a minority. There is less influence. However, it's been very interesting how you not only see the Indian diaspora, but people of Indian origin now showing up and making their voices heard. The fact that people who look like me, makes a difference to a lot of people here. And that has shown up not only in brown people showing up in elections, but also brown people making an impact and voting. So the voting numbers of Asians are much higher here in Austin than the other the Hispanics or the whites and so on. So that's been an interesting development that I have seen locally here, where there's a bigger participation than ever before from our community.
Mm-hmm. So do you think at this point of time, the Indian community per se is at a leverage in allowing for more of these legislations to pass in the Senate and both the houses and allow for significant changes if needed for especially the welfare of the Indian community living in America?
That's a great question. There are a couple of issues that I have followed and seen how they've been promoted. Mm-hmm. One of them is around the green cards, the really long queue of green cards that exists for Indians. And there's a lot more progress in it, but there's a lot more to be done. We haven't been able to get the same level of attention and impact that we should, because we have so many impactful people. However, it's not really getting the attention that it should.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you also part of the diaspora community organizations or forums in your area? If at all you are there any specific issues? You spoke about green card being an issue, and then there needs to be more that needs to be done for the Indian diaspora community. But are there any other issues that you are strongly voicing at this point of time? I remember in the recent past, there have been a number of issues that have been raised with regards to the kind of misinformation, disinformation that is being spread about the Hindu community. And the people have been enraged about it in terms of these forums that have been formulated, these forums these seminars that are being held by especially the academia of the Ivy Leagues, be it the Harvards or the Stanfords of the world. Are there more of such issues that you face in your daily life, or is it just relegated to the political, socio-political reference when it comes to America and the milieu that we are living in?
Good question. I haven't been impacted by this directly, nor has my family been impacted by any of this. However, it's something that all of us are aware of. It's becoming a lot more, it's voiced a lot. I personally haven't been involved in any of those conversations either. Mm-hmm. The conversations that I have found myself gravitating towards are around education. That has been something that I'm passionate about. I feel that was one of the big things that made a difference to where I am today. The kind of education that so I went to a publicly or a government-funded boarding school in Haryana. I followed it up with my graduation at St. Stephen's College, and then I went to IIM Calcutta. All of these schools I look back and I say, oh my God, how cheap were they? My middle-class parents were able to send me to really, really good schools, which set me up for success. Mm-hmm. I look back and I say, hey, if there is something that we want to maintain in India, is affordable education and accessible education for everybody. So those are the kind of issues, the kind of organizations I attach myself with. Okay. So one of the organizations that I'm actually part of is called Pratham. Okay. It's a pretty large nonprofit in India. It's headed by Dr. Rukmini Banerjee. It educates about 5 million students every year between grades 3 to 5. So that's an organization that I actually talk a lot about, okay, as well as contribute to, as well as raise funds for.
Thank you, Bhavna, for joining me on this very special broadcast. It has been great talking to you and understanding your life story, and a story of yet another Indian who has made it fantastically well in America and made the Indians across the world very, very proud.
Thank you, Megha. It was my pleasure to be here and talk to you.
NewsX ITV network have proudly launched the VaKu Diaspora Broadcasting Network.
VaKu DBN will be India's first mainstream platform dedicated to the diaspora community. Help support us. Become VaKu patrons at memboro.com/VaKu. You will get the first access to our interviews, make recommendations, merchandise access, ask questions, and get a shout out of thanks on our TV shows.
You can also suggest to us who should get the VaKu Golden Chakra Awards and also tell us who should get into the VaKu Hall of Fame. Limited memberships are available at 100 rupees per month on Memboro VaKu.
Sign up now. Log on to memboro.com/vaku.